live 8:31 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The date 1/14/2012. Subject Amazon.com. 3-minute chart and longer term. We're going to be talking about one of the MMT's discoveries. This is our MMT platform right here. And MMT Joel has had the experience of really defining our platform and how accurate the directional movements are based on there are no standard technical analysis in there. And we're going to talk a history about the Keltner band, where it came from, how it was banded. And so what I am going to do is use the Amazon chart as part of our discussion because we had a huge down move and then we had the huge up move. And so I'm going to ask MMT Joel, if you're ready, how would you apply this to your discoveries? What do you find the most reliable and the most accurate to your findings? And what are your findings of the Keltner band versus our market maker platform? And your on-balance volume and other things.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing we learn is these teeny lines, and this is proprietary to the MMT platform, is that you see prices attach themselves to teeny lines, and I think this is a perfect example. Is the Amazon chart, and is that these two peaks were at the same teeny line, and that teeny line is defined by the yesterday's intraday range, right? High and low, and the teeny lines, are like, up and above them or below them, and they have a monetary value to them. So when you start understanding the MMT platform being that high-low, and essentially the division of that high and low into teeny lines, and that the high and low divided by 2 is the half bar, right?
Well, yes, because there would be a buyer and a seller.
Right, and so I started looking for what kind of technical indicators will give me a indication of where we are in the volatility range. Because the other thing we learn is that if it's down 1 delta, 2 delta, 3 delta, and it's a strong stock, you're going to get a rebound off the top. Or if it's weak, you're going to get a sell-off. So, those are generalities. But so that forced me to look at technical indicators, and I think Mario and Brian and Rick have always pointed out they're lagging, and so I started looking for indications of volatility, and what are the things in technical indicators that will help me understand, looking at a chart, where we are in volatility. And there are a couple of them that people have used over the years, and one is average true range, where's the stock moving over time, and then there's Bollinger Bands and Keltner Bands. And why I got interested in Keltner Bands is that they're actually defined as volatility bands, okay? And if you go look up Keltner Band and try to do some historical reading on them and find out what exactly they are, you go and you find out that they were developed in the Commodities and by a guy named Keltner. And when he did his calculations on Keltner Bands, he took a moving average, and then what he did is subtracted the high and the low divided by 2 from that midpoint, your moving average. And so you can imagine that high-low of the day divided by 2 above it, and high and low subtracted below it. And so you get a range that the stock moves, okay? And you could do one range of, or you can do 2 ranges, or you can do 3 ranges. Okay, and so if you look at a chart, you'll see that, hey, look at the stock's moving in the range of your high and low divided by 2. And what was interesting to me is Brian, when he started working on the on balance volume stuff, actually did, you can do on balance volume by high low plus close divided by 3, or you can do it high low divided by 2.
Well, would it make sense that there's only a buyer and a seller, so there's only really two people?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so what you do is when you add the close, then you don't get your volatility in there, and you can't really see where you are, because they'll move the close anywhere they want to, but the high and low is the true range that you have things, and we want to buy at the low or sell at the high. You put the close in there and you can't see it.
No.
It masks it. And so Brian, when I realized that, well, then I went back and realized that they had done the same thing with the Keltner band. They had moved from high low divided by 2, and then in 1980 they changed over to high and low plus close divided by 3. So you don't really get to see the volatility of your stock, and that's what we're interested in. Where is it relative to the high? Are we above the average of where the high is, or are we below the average where the low is? And we always want to buy at the low and sell at the high.
Sell back to the public, right.
Sell back to the public. So that forced me to go in and start really kind of paying attention to Keltner bands. And because it's the definition of volatility, and what I want to be able to do, and I'm not quite there yet in my understanding, is, but you can, if you start putting Keltner bands on your charts, you'll see that what they do is they'll fall below. Usually they set up Keltner bands as a 20-day moving average of the high and low above the stock, or in a 10-day moving average, and then a deviation of two high and lows, minus or plus. Well, you can screen for stocks that are at above the Keltner band or below the Keltner band, which means they're out of their volatility range, or you can actually go up to 3 times a high and low and see, well, is there a stock that gets up to 3 times its normal range of volatility?
Right.
And when you see stuff like that, you're going to be in a situation that this thing could turn around or it could flip, depending on your understanding of, is it above or below a moving average. Now, all I would say is that how you get to these Keltner bands is they're not on the MMT platform yet. I'd like to see them get there. Maybe it'll help people or not, but you can certainly put them in the AOS platform, and you can see where you are on your Keltner range. And really, the issue that I'm struggling with is that we know in the brain, right?
That's the application that's here on the monitor. A market maker application.
The market application, mathematically where 1 delta down is, 2 delta down, 3 delta down, and on the other side, where that is. And if you have a moving average of delta that was over your price on the MMT platform, that essentially would be a Keltner band.
Negative delta, positive delta.
That would be a Keltner band, and you could see once you're below, the moving average of the delta range, you would be able to see, hey, I'm 2 delta down, 3 delta down. Well, that's what I look for now. And so, by example, if I look at the daily chart of Amazon on September 14th, 15th, and 16th, it actually got up to its peak, and it actually was at 3 Keltner band above the moving average.
It was. Well, let me ask you this. I'm gonna populate the daily chart here, and what date did you say up here was the 14th? There's 1014. Is that what you're
Well,
talking?
the best I can do. Yeah, I'm talking about 1014 or 1015.
That's right here. You were putting in that triple top.
Yeah, and that right there is actually right on a Keltner band that's 3 times the moving what the high-low range would be.
We were shorting that stock
so it
at the
hit
time.
That, and I think I know, but what I would say is that, that would have been in the MMT platform, probably some sort of high delta point during the intraday, or the weekly range, the daily
daily
delta.
range.
It would have been a high point.
Yeah,
it would have been a high point, but it
would have been way up here.
And so what I wanted.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you would. But you can't see that on the MMT platform relative to the delta. But the Keltner band is an approximation for me of where we are in the delta world.
Right.
And when I get up to these high Keltner bands, I go, look, it can't sustain high Keltner for a long time. And you can watch these things bounce off 2 or 3 Keltner, the 2 Keltner band or 3 Keltner band. And another way to look at it is an average true range. It's actually above its average true range by 2 times or 3 times. And so every point is to say, okay, am I above the Keltner band or below the Keltner band? And then to look at Brian's on balance volume thing and say, hey man, we're above the average delta movement of this stock, and we're way overbought based on the on balance volume indicators. Hey, it's a low risk short, or it's a low
it's
risk
very what you've
long.
done is you've let an extreme movement make its clear movement to the top at its resistance level. In the MMT platform, you could see up here that when the stock was at $246.71, we were short during this period of time, and we're harping on it every day. And then you could see where when you turned up here, you turned in your MMT daily platform, but look at all of the diamond areas that this thing is breaking. And what I would like to ask you, was a standard Keltner turning down as ours was showing here, that the top end of that delta, if I go up here to $246 or close to it, let's just say, when the higher that delta, 13 deltas up, that them 13 deltas up would reflect your Keltner band. And not only that, this is going to turn, and yes, it is a half delta movement here, but look at, they were 13 full deltas up, and today the stock is closing at 178, and the stock came down into the negative delta range. That's where I bet you my last dollar down here, minus 1 full delta to the penny, is where we turned up $5 over here on the intraday chart. We had, here's a 3-minute chart of Amazon, and this is going to reflect that low, and I bet you my last dollar that Keltner band was turning up, but that the price in the MMT platform had probably advanced a 5 teeny or 7 teeny breakout before that says that this was going to happen, and you miss out in the dollar price movement or not. Have you found that out?
I think that the point is that in August, right? So if we just say that between August 21st and then the September point, that's the delta range of that stock for that period. I mean, it went from it was all the way down to
August
a low
23rd,
in August,
right here.
and then it went up.
We bought it long.
And if you just look at but you got to. But if you plot it out, I mean, if you had your delta bands, you would see that it's 1 delta down, 2 delta down, 3 delta down, and you would know when right up here. This is 3 deltas up from the low, right?
Right here.
Or 4 deltas up from the low on
Right.
a day